My name's Judith Hand. I'm from San Diego, California, and I think I would call myself a peace ethologist because I'm an academic that looks at war, gender differences, conflict resolution, and so on. And because of my gender interest in the difference between men and women and war, I was very excited to learn about the Liberian women's peace movement. This is a movement in which Muslim and Christian women got together, and after a 7 or 8 year bloody civil war, they had decided that they had just had enough. They were going to demand a hearing with their president, Charles Taylor, and that's part of African tradition. You can take your grievances to the head of government, the chief, or whatever. So these women boycotted. Well, they went to the market, and every Sunday, and in solidarity, they wore shirts that said, "We want peace." And they lined the road where he would drive his cars to the presidential palace every day with signs, "We want an audience, we want peace." And basically what they did was, by persisting, they were able to convince him to go to a peace conference. The movie Pray the Devil Back to Hell is a wonderful film produced by Abigail Disney that documents this wonderful women's movement in Liberia, in which they, at the peace meeting, when the men weren't making any progress, the women basically held them hostage. They sat down on the floors outside the doors at the peace conference and said, "We're not leaving until you make peace." They not only got peace agreement, the women of Liberia hung together in the next election and elected the first female head of state in all of Africa. This is Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who's now their president, Harvard-trained economist. There's a lot of hope there in Liberia, which is a very poor country. But it excites me. I find it the model and the metaphor for what I'm saying, which is that women are the key and the catalyst to major social transformation away from violence and aggression, because they're the natural allies of nonviolent conflict. And when they get their act together and say, "That's it, we've had it, we want peace," women supported by men can do just simply marvelous things. So I find that a wonderfully inspiring story.
Great. And what is your hope for the National Peace Academy?
Yes, I write and think entirely about the idea of how we transform society, and you cannot create a culture of peace unless you end war. Those two things are mutually exclusive. And furthermore, war, using violence to impose your views, your way of life, your control over others, is the way the systems have been working for thousands of years. War is the kind of the final threat that is used. So we have to be able to say to ourselves, we're going to get together and we're going to abolish war. Now, there are millions of organizations around the world right now that are trying to do different things to get social transformation, to change the system, but they're not pulling together. Basically, they're all kind of pulling separately, doing their own separate things. So my greatest hope for the National Peace Academy would be that this would be a center of learning and study and thought that would serve as a circling point, an area, a place where people can focus on what do we do to transform cultures, including the abolishment of war. I hope that the National Peace Academy will be a center of learning and thinking about how to transform cultures.